Yes, it is.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. The workshop, Monday, February 4th. We're all in attendance. Agenda items to discuss. Let's start right off with 3.1. Just a moment here. Let me get my computer up here. City staff will review the second quarter financial report for the fiscal year 2012-13, budget transfers, and 5-year financial forecast. Terry Canada to present. Terry?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Pleased to be back before you again with the fiscal year 13. Essentially, this is through December period that we'll be talking about. It's about a half a year's worth of activity for the city. And then further in the presentation, I'll go ahead and move to the 5-year forecast, talk a little bit about general fund, what's coming up in the other major operating funds. As you know, the budget process is about a month away from your involvement. We're doing a number of steps internally now. Staff is building the base budgets and looking at some supplemental requests. With that, I'm also pleased to say that general fund revenue for period ending through December is up. We're at 106% of expected budget. This does take into account the kind of the trending in the way the revenues do come in. It's not split normally like you would see 50%. We do have some revenue sources that trend higher in one month or the other. As you would expect, like next quarter we'll get the Christmas sales for retail sales, and so that'll be stronger. But just wanted to point it out, it's a trended average. On the expenditure side, we're a little bit below budget. Again, as you would expect for municipal government, we do spend heavier in the second half of the year. For total general fund, all categories we're at about 44%. And as I move along, please feel free to ask questions. I will go into more detail with each of these items here in the next slides. So this chart represents the top general fund revenue. I just want to point out a couple of things here, not so much on the percentages or the numbers, but as you can see, we're up. This is a good indication. We're looking at a lot of positive trends going into this. I will talk more specifically on the categories here in a minute, but all in all, for half a year, we're up over $1 million, which is a good indicator.
Yes, Joe.
Just a quick question, Terry. Assuming everything stays in the same track we are right now, and you know as well as I do that doesn't always work, but assuming that it does, come next budget year as you start to move forward, as far as new money for the general fund operating, because right now you're about 1.3 for 6 months up, what would be your best estimate? And again, we're not going to hold you to it, but I mean, what would be your best estimate trending right now on new money for operating for next year's budget, general fund?
Councilman Pizzillo and Mayor, I think we're estimating $2 million up and over this year's budget. The good news is we're pretty good about our estimating, and as much as I would like to say that we were conservative, we've been right on the last couple of years. A couple things here. I'll just go into it now on this chart here. Again, not focusing in so much on the percentages, but let's just look at a few types of the revenue. Plan review and development related revenue is up substantially. When we get into this, you'll see single family permits. I know you all get the report. That's up like 65% year over year. There's a number of indicators that are positive and are strong growth. We don't expect that to continue at the rate it is. But that's providing a lot of revenue over budget for this year. The other one that's really strong is construction sales tax. At a low of about, I want to say 2 years ago, that was at $3 million. So we've bumped that up, again, somewhat conservatively. We are estimating, though, that the budget will be a couple $1 million over for this year for construction sales tax. I think we estimated I want to say we estimated 5, and we're on track to receive about 6. So those two activities themselves are driving a large portion of this. Whether that activity can remain at that level of increase, we don't know yet. We'll just continue monitoring that. The other thing I'll point out is the construction sales tax is one time. A lot of that is driven by some of the larger projects that are going on, namely the construction out at, I think it's 303, or Loop 303 and I-10. That's a very substantial project. although it will continue on through the better portion of next year, again, it brings in a lot of revenue for that project.
Just looking at it, the one that kind of concerns me the most is not so much the plan review, because, that can go up and down, and depending on, how we continue on that, but, the non-construction sales tax being up 19,000. Property tax, you typically know that that's right on. The auto lieu, I would suspect that's going to pick back up and even out. Am I wrong on that, on the auto lieu? And
That's what we're expecting
okay,
also.
so looking forward into next year's general fund operating budget, that's why I see we're going to be a couple up, but trending wise, we went in single digits, from prior years to current year.
Correct,
I mean,
about 4%.
and again, assuming that we're running a little better now than what we had estimated, come next year's budget year, I'm wondering, based on current budget, are we looking 2 to 4 million of probably available funding for day-to-day operations? Would that be a fair estimate?
I'll get into that in
Okay.
a little while, but
Okay.
yeah, we're estimating at least a few $1 million.
Okay.
Yes, Bill?
Terry, I appreciate you answering the questions that I sent earlier this morning. But I did have a note in the PowerPoint presentation, which I did not include in that. At some point, can I get the sales tax non-construction figures from before the 0.5% sales?
Yes.
We have that, assuming we have that available. Thank you.
Okay, and if there are no other questions, I'll go ahead and move on. Again, this is just pointing out the top 7 key revenues that we have. Again, I'd like to say that 5 of them are positive. They're over budget. This is a good sign. We do expect the state share revenues, which are right in the middle, urban revenue sharing, auto lieu, and state share. We do expect those to come in on budget.
Quick question.
Joanne?
Terry, for the annual amount that was projected for construction sales tax, what was that figure? Do you recall?
Not off the top of my head. Oh, construction sales tax?
Yes.
Yeah, just a minute.
And if you can't find it, you can send that to me. I'm just, as we move forward and we know that there's this question at the legislature regarding.
Are you looking like we saw with the Mayor Shove gave a percentage?
No, I was just wondering what we had budgeted for construction sales tax for the year. Was that 5 million, 6 million? I just don't remember what the figure was.
Or give us a percentage, one or the other.
I think if you go back a couple slides, we should get
It's
the
there.
second quarter
For
budget.
the whole year?
No, second quarter budget.
No, I want it for the whole year.
Yeah, I don't
double.
have it for the year in here. I just
Okay.
have it by
I
quarter
would
to
think
quarter.
I would think it's double your second quarter budget. Your 2.7, you would double it to 5.
Just something as we watch, as we look at the future of what this legislature is trying to do to the cities.
I think what they're looking for is a figure for a conversation.
Yes, Larry confirmed it's $5 million budgeted this year.
Okay. All
And again,
right.
that is at the 3.5 rate.
Thank you.
Does that help? Any other questions?
Moving ahead to the expenditure side for general fund, as you would expect, the salaries are the largest part of the expense for of the 3 categories here. They represent nearly 70% of the budget. We are on track at 46%, and it does represent half of the payrolls for the year 13 of the 26 payrolls. Contractual services are running a little bit low. Again, what happens is we accrue the July expenses back to June of last year, so this does trend lower until we get to the 12th month, and then it'll pick up as far as a percentage year to date. And then commodities is at 42% right now. We have a number of things that are in process, either running through purchasing or taking, there's generally a delay in getting some of the commodities and contractual off the ground just because of the process they have to go through to get the POs and the bidding and work through the procurement on that. So all in all, for half of the year at 44%, we're estimating that we should be slightly under budget, again, moving forward to next year, providing some one-time funding. The other funds revenue, everything is looking good. HERF is running a little low. I did look at that for January, and the receipt for January was up considerably higher, so I'm hoping that that just trends through at 100% for the year. Water and wastewater, we are seeing some good consumption. They're both up. And then the same thing on the sanitation. The other side of this, I'm happy to say the expenditures are running under budget for all of these funds. Again, it would be representing most of them the largest expenditures. Payroll, we are at 13 of 26 payrolls.
Joe?
How many vacancies do we have right now? Just count number-wise.
When I did the report as of December, there were 30 vacancies.
How many?
30.
30, okay. 30 out of 500.
Yeah, that number is trending up higher than in previous years.
Yeah, we have, 512 authorized, right? So 30 is...
511, yes.
Okay. 7%. 8%.
Okay, and if there are no questions on the other operating funds, I'm going to move ahead. I want you to know that we're the second quarter transfers, again, administratively, you do approve these between funds. Any contingency requests would include both from the placeholder for contingency, as well if we had an emergency and we needed to dip within that $16 million general fund, rainy day fund, if you will. And then capital projects requiring transfers also come before you. This will be on the regular agenda item for on the consent agenda for next week. So I did want to go over a couple, just one for the people at home and two just to kind of pick out some of the bigger ones that were in the packet. This second quarter does represent, there's actually two transfers that are in here, and they're the fiscal year ending 12 adjustments for the capital program. And so we have a number of projects that during the budget process, we'll estimate where we're going to be at year end. Once all the bills are paid and the invoices come through, those numbers adjust. And so what you see here is a large number for project adjustments going back to contingency because they had too much budget appropriation. In other words, we spent the money last year. We didn't need it all for this year. And then the reverse, which is funding that was short. Again, we do have the funds available, and we increased the budgets because they didn't spend the money last year, and we needed to increase it to spend it for this year. Those are probably the two largest ones in here. Again, it's all for the capital plan. The other one I wanted to point out is there is a request in here to do some work out at the ballpark. If you remember during the budget process, we've committed to the teams to put back, I think it's $250,000 every year, and so we hold that in reserve, and then there's an approved list of items that are agreed upon by the team and city staff, and they go ahead and do capital improvements out of this fund. We do have the money there. Again, this is just a budget appropriation to allow them to do the improvements for this year. Another one that came up that might be a little bit confusing was at the beginning of the year we had the lease payment for the Bonita building, and as you know, we came before council and we had the approval to purchase that. It was kind of right in the middle between planning for the budget and executing it. And so as the year moved on and we did need to make the debt payments versus the lease payment, there's an adjustment in here to get the appropriation in the right account numbers for that transaction. And then the third very large one was for litigation, and that was a legal settlement that I'm sure came before you in executive session, I want to say a month or so ago, and that one was quite large. It was almost $750,000. So with that, are there any questions on any specific transfers?
Terry, Mayor, if that's right.
Yes, go ahead, Bill, I'm sorry.
The, again, for the public, the contingency fund, using that 703 figure that you just referenced for the legal transaction, moves from contingency. Is or is that not the quote-unquote rainy day fund?
No, Councilmember Mayor, this is not that contingency. This would be the appropriation that we have, again, budget appropriation set aside in the event you have an unforeseen or an emergency, non-planned expense such as this. This particular one, again, runs a lot like the baseball reserve. We put money back, one-time money every year to build up a reserve in the event that you have these unplanned litigation expenses. And so we've been transferring money, a one-time contribution every year. We do not, at the beginning of the year, foresee or know or can guess how much is going to be paid out of there. So when the transaction comes up and we actually do have to make a payment, then we do a budget transfer to apply the appropriation there so you can spend that money.
Thank you.
That comes up every year. So can you essentially, is the word placeholder, does that work with that or not? It's a placeholder.
Yes, the contingency is right, and we set it aside. Actually, it's quite large, and it's on the books. I want to say it's 25, 30 million. In the event that something comes up like an improvement district, and you have an opportunity to partner with somebody, and you need to do some financing of that.
And without
That's
it, we
really
can't
what's-
do that.
Not without the
That's the
appropriation
thing, I
by
think,
law.
with our finance, you don't realize if we don't have that placeholder, we can't take opportunities that come by because it has to be in there. So it's always hard to explain. Joe?
It's my understanding, though, too, that that is real money that's set aside as a fund, just like your depreciation or equipment replacement fund. I mean, it's money that's set aside. It's different in addition to your contingency. Is that correct? What we call the rainy day fund. It's in addition to the rainy day fund of
That
16
is
points a month.
correct. We have a risk management fund where we do keep that contribution.
Joanne?
Terry, maybe you're getting to this in another area, but on the financial report for the second quarter, on page 10, there's a brief section in there about the APS lights. And I think I'm confusing them with the section a couple years ago when we actually put funds towards purchasing of the lights. What is this section about? Because it almost sounds like it's the exact same thing that already occurred a couple years ago and should already be paid for, and we've already should have kind of received our payback by owning them now. So I'm a little confused. Is this just ongoing lights we keep purchasing, or what is this section about?
No, Councilmember Osborne, Mayor, this is the expense to light, the electrical expense, if you will, to light those lights that we did buy.
Right.
We monitor this. It's a fairly large expense, as you can see. We continue to monitor it because the plan put in place was to acquire the lights and then the maintenance cost. And as part of that contract with APS, when we severed and we maintain them now, we should be seeing some savings with that. And we are experiencing savings in the maintenance line item with that. Why it's highlighted here is because it's the second largest expense within that fund.
Okay, so, but have we realized the savings from the purchase a couple years ago?
We are experiencing savings every year on that. It is increasing. And it's on the maintenance side of the agreement with them. The one thing to keep in mind with this, and why I do highlight it here, again, it's $750,000 out of a $3-4 million fund. Every time we add roads and we add streets and we build, we're going to add to this. And so
Right,
I don't want the perception to be that this cost has increased and that we weren't able to maintain the agreement and the savings that were anticipated by doing that arrangement and buying the lights. Why we monitor this and why the expense will go up is because of additional street lights that we now own that we're paying for.
Okay, I figured that it was additional. I was just, at first blush of reading it, I was concerned that the couple year ago purchase wasn't really, we weren't realizing that savings and they weren't paying for themselves, and that's why I was asking the question.
And and this specifically is not for lights,
Okay.
right? It's
But it's
just
the-
the plug-in electrical part.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, with that, I'm going to move ahead and kind of what we're looking here. I guess I just kind of put this. I don't know if you remember last year I had the little rain cloud thing, and anyways, chance of sunshine. Well, now we're seeing the sun. It's there, and we're cautiously optimistic. Again, we do take a conservative approach as we move forward into the budget season. The big question from my perspective and probably city management is like, what's the new norm? And I'm going to go through a number of slides here that are statistics that will demonstrate that, boy, we were way, way up. I know we're all tired of seeing that great big slide. But now I guess it's safe to say we hit bottom and we're starting to creep back out. And so where are we really at? I mean, the city of Goodyear experienced 10, 16, 18% growth way back, 2004, 5 before my day. And now we're starting to see that we're averaging, I think our estimate moving forward for all development related is right around 4%. We might be at 5, we might be at 6. But how do we gauge a budget and services to our citizens based on, what's the new norm here? We have good services we provide. Our customer response is very good. And so moving forward, where are we at and kind of what is the average, if you will? This is Greater Phoenix permits. Just want to point out, the 73% is just kind of crazy. This is after 6 or 7 years of negative percent change. So on the surface, things appear to be very good. We are a large percent of this market and remain so. These are just some indicators again. The positive ones moving up. CPI is up. Consumer confidence is up. Happy to say unemployment is down. Arizona housing permits, this stat happens to be month over month, they're up 27%. That's the entire state. Goodyear's even better. Year over year, we're 65% up. Up from what, I guess, is a question. But nevertheless, we're moving in the right direction. Some things here, I'm not going to read them, some assumptions going into here. I think you hit on some of the big ones we have. What's going on down at the state and the legislative session? Are they going to tap into our tax? How does that affect? That's the biggest, biggest source of revenue we have is sales tax, and including construction sales tax. Like I said, it's probably, a quarter of that tax. Do you have a question?
I do have a question.
I'm
Mayor,
sorry.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, I have a
Go ahead,
question.
Jennifer.
When will we have some answers about the construction sales tax in the state, and if they do want to dip into some of our funds? When is that typically decided?
That would be this this legislative session. They'll make that decision. Then it depends when it would actually become effective. So effective date could be fiscal year, could be calendar year, but it should be decided, the fate of that, this legislative session.
Thank you.
A couple things I will tell you as we move through this. I'm going to provide better estimates. I'll be back up in front of you. We'll look at the calendar at the very end with revenue projections. This was kind of just the framework, if you will, as the staff put together the forecast. Were there any major drivers that changed? Were there any indicators that, a couple years ago we were projecting up, and all of a sudden we got to this point, February, March, and things went down. So this is kind of the framework of how we put together the 5-year forecast. Again, like I said, slight growth. We were pretty conservative, but there are some things that could change this throughout the budget process. Not to brag about this, but this is the second year of revenue increases, so I'm happy to say that. I was tired of the budget cuts. It wasn't a fun time. For general fund, the sales tax, what I'm seeing here is month over month that these are remaining stable. This is good. Some of our neighbors are down. We're holding our own. We're not seeing as strong of an increase in this particular category, which would be retail, restaurant, and bar, and other type sales tax. Construction sales tax is the big driver that's doing well. State shared revenue. We will get these estimates in March. They come from the league. And so I think I've put in here just a single-digit increase, maybe 3 or 4%, which is consistent with what we're hearing from the presentations from the state. As we go to, some seminars and things, they'll give their predictions. Development services revenue, that's the hard one. That's really the hard one. It's one-time revenue in nature. We will expect to see good increases throughout the end of the year going forward to next year, but you're going to see some expenses associated with it. Again, single-family permits up.
Well, it kind of goes on the single-family permits in your last slide. When you come back, can you give us some estimates or some projections on some of the property tax revenues? Because you hear the Arizona's doing so much better, the Phoenix market's doing so much better, and I know we have the about 18-month lag. Could we get some projections? Because I know that's probably just so fluid. If that would be great, anything that you have.
Yes, and the one thing, we were just talking about this before, Anna's actually the guru on the property tax. We have received that we'll be down for next year, going into this planning cycle, so for fiscal year 14. The other information comes out in March also. So by the time we put the revenues together, we'll kind of know where we're going, but as you indicated, it is a couple-year lag. Property values, sales-wise, they all seem to be the information that we have, is that the median price of a house is going up. How long that takes to get on the tax rolls is another story. I do have here in this slide in my notes, the construction sales tax for last year was actual 4.7 million, and the estimate for this year is going to be about 6.5. So give you a magnitude of where we're at with that. This is pretty generic in nature, but I wanted to point out it's consistent with what we've been planning all along. I didn't change the numbers too much on here. What I wanted to point out is a while back, Larry's brilliancy, he came up with the financing plan for the PIC payment, which is scheduled in 18, which is that increase for the ballpark, if you all remember that. This is incorporated here. So as you see, the orange bars represent the expenditures going out. There is an actual gap at the top of each of those bars that is a set aside. It's predicted to be ongoing revenue that's available, but we're gonna use it for one-time expenditures. And so as I put this forecast together, I've taken that out and kind of put a placeholder in, if you will, to make sure that we're not overcommitting on the ongoing, and that it will be specifically used for one-time money through 2018. Now, as far as the other operating funds, a couple notes on the HERF. That's to provide street maintenance, and as Joanne pointed out, that includes the operation of the lights, maintenance of the lights. It's also the sweeping and any maintenance on the lights or on the streets. What I've anticipated here for the next 5 years is that the city will continue to contribute $1 million a year. The one thing that I want you to note and think through as we go in the budget process is the streets department has put together an extensive list of street needs, and they are not included in the operating budget. So at some point, we'll have to have additional funding up and above what I'm estimating for operating to continue to do the major reconstruction. We have discussions internally about whether to house it in the capital plan, because it's kind of competing dollars for the construction sales tax money, or if we just put placeholders in and continue to have that in the operating fund. With sanitation, I guess some good news here, if you could take it that way. We did get the index increase. I believe we got it in December from Waste Management, and it was lower than we thought. It's going to be 2% for the year coming up. So with that and the fact that we've changed the service level and we're kind of containing costs, that fund is okay for right now. We were able to have some salary savings in there, and like I said, the contract cost is a little bit less than we had anticipated. Water and wastewater, we just did the fourth change of the rates in January. We are anticipating two things are coming up in this fund. They're really important for the city. We're in the middle of doing the master plan for them. We just are finishing up the infrastructure side of that, and then they're going to get into the rate part of it is coming up. I think we're going to be able to do that in the later part of the summer. So we'll be coming back with you. I put together a 5-year forecast of known things that are going on with this fund, including some maintenance needs and also replacement of some vehicles. But we will be coming back with both development impact fees that don't impact the operating quite yet until we build the stuff, but you'll see if we need some new plants or new water lines eventually, there'll be costs associated with that. And then on the maintenance side of things, with the rate study. And then the stadium fund, I put that together again. The commitment is a $2.4 million ongoing subsidy, if you will, and I've used that framework to put together their budget. Something to keep in mind, the stadium, I think it's the 4th year of operations, and so things are wearing out. So with that said, just some things to think about as we go into it. I'm going to flip to the calendar here in a minute. As staff, we know we haven't had a lot of free money in the last couple of years. We are trying to hold the line on expenditures. I think the thought process there is to be more efficient and do better with what we have. Get it in line for the future before we do hit some, double-digit growth if we do. Keep an eye on the revenues. We're going to come back to you with those. We do monitor those every single month by, account category, everything. And then as far as priorities of the council, we did have the retreat and are taking into consideration the things that were discussed there. We have a number of cooperative agreements. I'm happy to say that we're making some revenue off of them. A few will be new and brought before you, but Litchfield Park is doing very good. And then there will be also there'll be presentation on the employee-related considerations. It is one of the largest cost increase every year, such as the salaries, the health insurance, and risk management. The employee retirement contributions continue to go up. And then can we provide service at a lower cost, maybe alternative services?
Just quick, what is the ARS contribution going next year? Do you know?
What is it going
What
to?
is it going up?
I do not know.
Know yet?
Off the top of my head.
We're estimating, Human Resources estimating about $212,000, $210,000 round numbers.
What I mean for the standard ARS, what's it now? 11, close to 11%?
You're talking about
Yeah,
percentage
the percentage,
contribution by
yeah.
employees and city? 10.54 going up to 11.3.
So 0.8%. Okay.
Joanne?
Terry, I have to give you all a great amount of credit because, quite frankly, you've seen so many different things you've had to deal with. We went through a recession when a drop of construction sales tax by millions upon millions of dollars. You've made it through that. And then we came up with a plan, you came up with a plan, Joe came up with a plan on how to pay for the ballpark by one-time funds and things like that. And we lost the impact fees to a degree, and so you constantly have something thrown at you to have to, re-strategize and come up with a new budget. And I'm sure that you're also right now gearing your brains as to what if the legislature does pull those construction sales taxes altogether and how that affects that ballpark plan again. And so I know it may be too soon right now to have any idea, but I would sure like you to have Plan B as we go forward in case that unfortunate situation occurs.
Well, it's going to be a large number. I think we'd be assured of that.
Oh, we know it's a large number, but how it
It's
affects
going to
that
be
plan.
monumental. We've had a lot of challenges in the last few years. I think this one's going to be a huge one. City Manager?
And I think the shorter answer is we're estimating $6 million construction sales tax. If that happens, we've estimated perhaps $500,000 in revenues, drops that much. So the huge impact is on any one-time project type,
Right.
not ongoing, but significantly hurts our capital investment in this community, significantly.
Bill is first, and I'll get you, Joe. Bill?
I want to go back to Joe's question about the pension system and looking to bring some clarity to that issue. The percentage of increase of the employer's contribution to that is not anything that the city has control over.
Correct.
So let's talk about that, and not only for ASRS, but also PSRS. We don't control those. Those are controlled by state statute, by the state legislature. We're not in control of them. So the conversation that we hear about California and, the pension system is out of control and the communities need to get a handle on it, we don't control that aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important piece whenever we talk about pension, that that's not anything that we can control, and that's why we rely on staff to monitor that.
Thank you, Bill. Wally?
Terry, I have a question regarding the $2.4 million budgeted each year for the stadium expenditures. For that. Now, Terry, I'd like to know, but maybe I should address this to my city manager. Will we have any kind of a briefing on these stadium expenditures, or are we supposed to expect to see a $2.4 million amount budgeted every single year that we have budget negotiations regarding upkeep of our stadium?
We will,
And
Yeah,
this money
it
will
was a
not
good-
be used for operating expenditures of the stadium. Am I correct?
it's a subsidy that goes to offset the cost of the stadium, correct?
Oh.
We do bring back before you, if you'll notice on the budget calendar here was a good segue, we will bring back both the revenue projections and the expenditures. And I do that by all major operating funds, including the stadium. And so we will talk about the stadium budget.
Yeah, we will talk about, but 2.4 of it is going to be brought forward for updating.
Actually, the 2.4 is part of the general fund transfers.
Okay.
City Manager, can you clarify that a little bit?
Yes,
more,
and to
please?
further clarify, that is a subsidy of the personnel, the ongoing operations, not to be, it is in addition to any debt service that we would have on the capital investment. And we are experiencing quite a bit. We'll be bringing that back also. A lot of the non-spring training events and revenues that we bring in there to really try and hold the line at $2.4 million. But that's the amount we've had in there for the last couple of budget years. And anything we can do to bring in additional events, that is our goal. And again, we'll be bringing back an economic impact study that shows that we're doing pretty well. So we're trying to hold that line right now, though.
But the 2.4 could be reduced.
2.4, we're looking at it for next budget year, but we continue, instead of increasing that with additional costs in electric and other ongoing expense increases beyond our control, like utilities, and we're trying to hold the line there at 2.4 million at this point.
Joe?
I'm hoping there's 300,000 that you can bring that 2.4 down. It's called water. So I still have that in the back of my mind on that remediation water to get your watering of the ball fields down by another 300,000. But to pick back up where you mentioned earlier when it comes to construction sales tax, I think it's important as we meet with our legislators, as you carry the torch, is to show how that kind of one-time money, which is our roads, our capital projects, our replacement of our equipment, how all that would be devastated if that funding source would go away. So I think that's real important to explain to them where that money goes and what it funds, because obviously the HERF money is not nearly enough to carry the roads. And we use general fund and one-time money on that construction sales tax to help on our roads. And what you don't want to have is, obviously, as the roads get to a point where you got to replace the whole thing because you can't do the maintenance because you don't have the money to do the maintenance. And that typically starts sliding when you get into tough times. So that's where I'm hoping we put our emphasis to explain to them how important that revenue source is to us.
Thank you, Joe.
Moving ahead, I'll just point out the budget calendar. A number of times I referred to more detailed information. Again, we're doing the update today, which is February. Staff will take the majority of the rest of this month in March to go ahead and balance the budget, if you will. We're working through the base budget requests and the supplementals. We don't get again, the estimates for the major revenues come in about the last week in March, so that'll be about the time that we have final numbers that we'll put back. And then we'll be before you with the review of the capital plan, and then revenues, expenditures draft, and then the legal requirements follow that. So are there any questions on the process or the calendar this year?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Let's go to item 3.2, to update regarding the retail market in Australia Falls Regional Mall project. Sherry Wakefield signs. I'll let you do the introductions, please.
Mayor, council members, it's our pleasure to be before you this evening to talk about what's going on in the retail market here in Goodyear and also within the state of Arizona and throughout the nation, shall I say. I have joining me this evening Garrett Newland and Rob Bassett, a part of the executive team at Macerich, who's been a partner in our project to date, and they'd like to tell you a little bit more about the status of our project and what's going on in the retail market.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Rob Bassett, Candy's here with me, works on the development side here in out of the Phoenix office. George Getz, who's our partner with Globe Corporation, didn't make it out tonight, but he sends his best. They own all that property that surrounds the regional mall and the power center, and are in this for the long term. So, quick update on the project. Want to do a brief overview. Would like to do a market update, although your budget staff just did a nice job of that, so I won't add too much there. Outline our investments in Goodyear to date, and then highlight the process for the next phases of the project, and then of course answer any questions you might have. And if at any point you want to stop me and ask a question, please do.
Thank you.
Feel
Very
free to.
aggressive council, they probably will.
That's okay, no problem. All right. Did I run it over there? Yeah. We put together just a very brief PowerPoint for council tonight. Wanted to point out that Westcor started working on this project all the way back in 1998. We've already been working on it for 15 years now. The big idea was a commercial core master plan, 330 acres, and will yield over 3 million square feet of development over a build-out timeline. First phase was the market at Estrella Falls. You're all very familiar with that, I'm sure. We opened it, the first phase at the end of 2008. Bash's, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, and others, some restaurants as well. Another major component of the project is the regional mall site. It's about a 100-acre site. About 1 million square feet of development will occur on that site. And then the 160 acres that surrounds that will be a lot of more commercial mixed-use development, hotel, office, and even potentially some residential will get built to fill out this major core area. And if you can go ahead and flip to the next one, Sherry. It's kind of hard to see that, but that's the whole 330 acres. And with some major power center development, regional mall, and then all the other mixed use, projects like Paradise Valley Mall, the Arrowhead and the area around Arrowhead, Superstition Springs, Chandler Fashion Center, all those are projects that Westcor developed over a very long period of time, back in the PV all the way back into the 80s. The next one on deck for us after Estrella Falls is, surprise, in Posada, our Posada project, and I'll reference that a little bit too. But that's the model, and it has worked very well for us. Maybe a little bit, again, hard to see, but I wanted to point out that the major green feature that runs through that is the Bullard Wash Park that got built as a result of the improvement district that Westcor and now Mesa Rich are funding. It did major improvements to Pebble Creek, McDowell Road, and all the roads in between, 150th and Canto, and really allowed for the market at Estrella Falls to be developed and open, as well as the Evergreen Center, both of which have been generating tax revenue for the city for the past several years. Brief market update. First thing to notice there is you see the 3 stars. This is the development focus that our company has in Arizona right now. All West Valley. One is North Valley. Rob's been working on that one for a while, North Black Canyon. We're doing a John C. Lincoln Hospital project, and then looking at additional medical office building, potentially auto, potentially retail over time. Estrella Falls, as you can see there on Interstate 10, and then the next project for us, retail project, will be Posada. Okay, quick update. The recovery does continue. As you've heard from your budget folks, you're starting to see revenues come back up. Jobs, housing, all improving. We've got a very robust in-house research team now. We hired about 3 years ago a gentleman away from Target Corporation out of Minneapolis, Tim Corzine, and he's built a very strong research team. We have regular meetings with your staff to share numbers, and there's so many numbers out there. We'd like to try to get on the same page and make sure that as we're talking to retailers and as these guys are talking to retailers, we're all saying the same thing. The 2010 census numbers that were recently released show that there are already 500,000 population in this immediate primary trade area. That's significant. Income numbers were solid as well. And it's important to remember that the trade area for this project is well beyond Goodyear. I mean, Goodyear is at the core, but Avondale, Tolleson, Buckeye, Surprise, Phoenix, it'll draw from a very large area. Couple of trends. Consolidation continues. You'll continue to see some of the retailers that 5 years ago you thought, wow, these guys will be here forever. Well, maybe not. And so you have to, as a landowner and developer, react and adjust to those changes and make sure that you continue to be relevant. And one thing I will say is that the regional mall product, that delivery vehicle, is a very, very solid vehicle. And you look at market cap rates across the country, they're trading in very, very solid values. Some of the other sectors, the power center, the larger box developments, those are the ones that suffered the most. West Valley certainly saw its share of that, including Goodyear. But it is getting better. It is improving. The outlet phenomenon has hit Phoenix. We've spent the last couple of years as developers looked at Phoenix to do an outlet mall right in the core of the population. You know, the old days, outlet malls would go 30 to 50 miles past the last department store, and that's the closest they could put a location. Well, it's a different world now. Retailers are looking at three major ways to deliver product. They're bricks and mortar, full line retail stores, outlet, which is discount, secondhand, and really typically more, it's just a different product. It's not quite as good a quality as the full line store, and then online. And I'll mention a little bit more about online. Phoenix was one of the last major metro areas that didn't have, you know, these outlet projects right in our core. We understand that the opening of the outlet center along the 101 was solid. I think that speaks well for the West Valley, frankly. I will say that it doesn't change our opinion at all about full service, full line regional mall in Goodyear. Again, it's when you really delve into it and research the shopper, the trip, the amount of money spent, the number of trips per year, it's really a very different product than full line retail is. Online, just read some more information today about the online phenomenon, and online is now up to 5.1% of all retail sales, which is significant. It's a big number, a lot of retail sales in this country. It's up from 4.8% last year, so it is increasing and it will continue to increase. Again, retailers are looking though at these three ways to deliver sales, and the good news for us, those of us in the bricks and mortar business, is that people want to experience, touch, feel product. You know, some things you can look online and order and have it delivered, but it's much more difficult to do that with the things that, you know, some nice jewelry, soft goods, clothing. You know, it's much harder to do that without experiencing it and seeing it. So while those will continue to grow, we know that full line bricks and mortar are going to continue to be very relevant going forward, no question. The last point I wanted to make is just the impact of the Hispanic consumer continues to be very relevant in Phoenix. Market demographics continue to change. We own the former Westridge Mall, which is now Desert Sky Mall, very Hispanic population, and we've changed the marketing and tenanting of that mall to really fit the consumer that lives around the project, and it's doing very well. So it's another example of you really need to serve your immediate trade area. That's something that we have to do as owners. Okay, to get to the regional mall development business, sales for retailers are also improving. Some retailers are back to the pre-recession levels. You know, we're seeing some retailers perform very well, 06, 07 levels, but not all of them. And some of the very important ones for us in Goodyear are department stores. They're improving, but they're not quite back to where they were before. They still have a ways to go. This graphic shows, and again, it's hard for you to see this. You'll get a copy of it. You'll be able to take a look and then call me if you have any other questions about it. But what this is looking at is new regional centers that opened between 2009 and 2012, so the last 4 years, and those are the lighter colored, the white dots. Only 5 malls opened in the last 4 years. That is astounding. There were 2 to 5 malls opening every year for the period of the 2000s leading up to that. And so it's, as you can see, things have slowed way down. The red dots show the next 4 years. They show the planned openings for regional projects over the next 4 years. There are 7 of those, and you'll see that Estrella Falls is one of those 7. Even more to point out are projects like City Creek that opened this past year, and Scottsdale Quarter that opened during the quote-unquote recession. Those really aren't apples-to-apples comparisons with what Estrella Falls is. Those are more urban, almost, they're not really redevelopment, but they're certainly more of an urban project. You know, we are in a suburban growth market, and so it's a little different perspective. So the bottom line is the market dynamics for these kinds of projects has changed. Many projects that started and frankly didn't do well in the 2009 to 2012 timeline, retailers are they're much tighter with their sales projections. In a market like this, previously they would say, okay, we can forecast sales of maybe $400 a square foot, and we know that the market is growing at 12%, 10% every year, so the curve is there. Well, the growth now has to be the icing. It can't be the story. So the good news is that with the 2010 census coming out and showing that the primary trade area here is actually bigger than we thought it was. We picked up about 50 to 75,000 people just by looking at the census numbers for this trade area, which is significant. So we're relaying all that information to our retail partners. Also wanted to talk about just what we've done a good year to date, and I mentioned our partners, George Getz with Globe Corporation. They've been a great partner. They've weathered the storm with us at the market at Estrella Falls. The project continues to do well in spite of coming online going into the teeth of the storm.
Can I stop you right here? Do
Sure.
the new people know Globe? Do you know what the significance? You're all right there, because I was going to just have you add a little bit of that. Go ahead, thanks. All right.
So market at Estrella Falls, significant investment there. We've invested more than $80 million to date in Goodyear between the market at Estrella Falls, all of the payments and improvements we've made to infrastructure in the area, land acquisition, et cetera. We are significantly invested, heavily invested, and committed to our continuing growth and development here in the community. Mentioned the improvement district, and again, that allowed for the construction of the market at Estrella Falls and the Evergreen development to be built and starting to generate sales taxes as early as 2008 for the community. The improvement district also built that great Bullard Wash Park, which is a significant asset and amenity for the community, and we're proud to have been part of that. We continue to be a major sponsor for the ballpark and for other events in the community. And we're always willing to consider others if you let us know what you want to do. And we're always committed to schools. Westcor's got a very long history of supporting schools, and we continue to do that with a number of programs where we go out to the different school districts here. So, last comment about process and timing for the next phase, which is the mall. We're working with our retail partners every day. Macerich, we still own over 60 malls all over the country. We've got 60+ million square feet in all the major markets. So we're talking to all these retailers on a daily basis and reminding them about Goodyear on a daily basis. Without fail, every one of those is saying we get it. We see the trade area, we understand it. When? It's always when. What is the right time? Our goal is to start the site plan approval process this year in 2013. We have to come back through Planning Commission and Council with site plan and design. And then we're looking forward to really stressing your permit and inspections group with a lot of individual tenants coming in. And
I'm going to stop you right there.
Yes.
Can you kind of inform the public on the design, because they're asking probably some that didn't hear before. Why coming back through with these plans and designs and what the change is, all right?
Yes. The plan that we came through with previously had an outdoor design. The more recent designs that we're looking at now show it as an enclosed project. Some of the site work and the drainage plan will still apply, but there's some significant differences in the enclosed format versus the outdoor. Now, I won't say that we for certain have settled on an enclosed format, but that's what our retailers are telling us. And if you look at the other enclosed projects in the valley here, they do very well. They perform very well. So, yeah.
I have one more question. I went to, I don't know if it was the opening or the week of the opening of the Union at the Biltmore. My daughter was visiting from Colorado, and she's a writer, and she heard about it in Colorado. So we went, and I was really impressed with it, and encourage people to go out and take a look at that if you haven't been there to the Biltmore. It's a different concept that's attached to the shopping center, concept bringing some more relaxed and different market in that area, but quaint. So is that anything in the future that they're looking at for other shopping centers once we get ours built?
Yes, Mayor. The idea behind the Union was kind of like what you see when you go to the Ferry Building in San Francisco on a significantly smaller scale. But it's the idea of these higher end and individual boutique type small retailers that can come in. And it's really, when you do these kinds of spaces, there's a lot of turnover, typically, quite a bit of turnover until someone hits it right. And when things get stressed like this in the economy, you take a chance on some retailers that might not normally be able to get into a mall. And then if they do well, you incubate them there, and then you can move them up into bigger space. And we've done that in a few cases.
It's
So
very unique. So if you haven't been there,
we're happy to do it. It's a great concept. And yes,
thank you.
doing well. Sure. Okay. The mall, once we start construction, will take about 18 to 20 months to build. And again, I don't have an opening date to share, but our goal is to deliver the project to the market in the next 3 to 4 years, which is the same that we've been saying. The City of Goodyear and the surrounding communities' efforts at job creation is a big deal. It really helps us when we can sit down with the retailer. Was meeting with the department store a couple of months ago and showed them all of the job growth that just the City of Goodyear is seeing that has an impact. It definitely does. It helps. It helps tell the story of why you need to be here and the strength of the market.
Well, we're working hard at that.
Yes.
And we hope to add some more in the very near future.
That's what I understand. So keep up the good work there. I'll just finish with, again, saying that I really believe that Estrella Falls will be if not the most significant commercial core for the City of Goodyear and the whole Southwest Valley for many years to come. And no one wants to start construction and open it more than we do, believe me. And we can continue to look forward to being a good partner with the city and the community. So, answer any questions. Thank you.
Yes. Sherry?
With all the consolidation in the market, the old format, and I remember when Paradise Valley opened there, that's where my first job was, there were like 4 or 5 major anchors. What are we looking at now? And I know you, not tying you down to this mall, but in general, what is the format looking like now under the new consolidation?
That's a great question, and things changed so dramatically when Westcor opened Chandler Fashion Center. They had 4 department store slots and then a theater location. There were 8 department store groups that were trying to get into those 4 slots. And over the last 10 years now, Mervyn's is gone, Sears is very different, Lord & Taylor is gone. It's the players, the department store players that are really growing now are Macy's, Dillard's, JCPenney, and then to a more limited degree, Nordstrom. Those really for our trade area, for our market, those are the anchors that we talk to and we work with. And then theater, of course. We've got Harkins Theater ready to go and build a location, and he's done quite well, by the way. That theater operator has done very well all the way through the downturn. So we're excited to have him as part of it as well.
Joe?
I thought it was kind of interesting when you were mentioning about your target area, surprising on the good side. You $500,000, you were up in 2010, more than, what was it, 20, 30? What was the number that was greater than what you had expected?
We were using population estimates that were a 2011 estimate projected, and we were in the more like 475, 480,000, and it went to over 500,000 when the 2010 census data came out, which we're all using and believe is better data.
Is 500,000 the magical number?
Great question. The old West Corps would have told you that it didn't even need to be 500,000. The difference today is those retailers need to see a very strong, mature, ready-to-go trade area. And then, oh, by the way, if you're going to have some growth on top of that, fantastic. So we're there. We're seeing that now.
And that's the reason why I'm mentioning it, because it sounds like we are there when it comes to that. And I do appreciate going to undercover versus in Arizona. I wasn't quite sure on where they were going with the outdoor, but I hear that from constituents all the time. It says, what are you thinking about outdoor as opposed to undercover? So I'm sure you're going to get a great reception out here with that. You mentioned you're looking at some of that, going through that process on design. When are you looking to start that process? Because obviously there's a big difference between outdoor versus under, which is going to require some time going through the planning, which I know Sherry will work with you very closely to make sure that gets through. What kind of timeline are we looking for that to at least kick off?
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember. If you go to an opening date and then back up 18 to 20 months, we'll need about a 6 to 9 month period to come through and get our site plan adjusted. And as we're working on that with the city, we'll be already starting our construction drawings. So the total project time it's 2 to 2.5 years to start and then build it and then open the project.
So we got to be looking for something pretty soon, I would think.
Well, we're hoping to get back into the city this year in 2013. Okay. That's our goal.
Wally? I understand that the Arrowhead Mall is one of the best performing malls. Am I correct in that? I read it somewhere. I know every time I go it's packed because all of us with grandchildren take them so they can run around and it's cool and air conditioned. We're hopeful that, we know we'll be successful once you come out. And we're anxious, of course, to have you come. But do you feel that the retail market is picking up enough that our anchor will be more confident in coming out here? Because you're going to hit a huge audience. And I know I go by the Posada all the time to see your color of your sign, the turquoise sign that's so beautiful. And I've always worried that you would turn that dirt first before us, and you have now assured us you will not be doing that. So that's good to know.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember. A couple of comments there. On the timing of Posada, I'll start with that in Surprise. Similar program, big investment, very long-term build-out. We've got 2 power centers, a Walmart center and a Target center. Target's getting started soon, we hope. And then there's some auto mall development that's occurring there. We also own a regional mall site, but you just have to look at the numbers. The Estrella Falls site is years ahead of that site. Our plan is to deliver this project. It'll be at least 5 years after we open this project before you could deliver another regional mall in Surprise. Comment on format. The enclosed format works very well in Arizona. It works very well across the country. But the outdoor format is also very successful. You look at projects like Biltmore or like Kierland or even Santan Village that we just opened down in Gilbert a few years ago. They're all doing very well. Format matters, but I think it's more about the collection of retailers and then the quality of place, and even more now, more than ever, restaurants and other entertainment aspects to bring you and keep you there are important. So we will be delivering all of those and more, certainly. Yeah.
Joanne?
On that note, Thank you, gentlemen, for coming this evening. Today was a beautiful day, and I might kind of be the minority here, but, I do appreciate the indoor-outdoor facility. To me, and you certainly know your business, but I also know retail, and I know that as we battle online, as we, are those retailers, it's about experience. And it's about, what the client or the customer is experiencing at that mall. And I appreciate that, we hit, as I've said before, the senses. Is it visibly pleasing? Does it have an aroma? Is it the little, what is it, not sugar, what is it, Cinnabon, or is it flowers? Is there music piped in around, is it landscape? To me, is it something about bringing the outdoors in? But a question I have for you, and I especially sit there thinking about how those anchors have dwindled. I think of some others that you didn't mention, like Dick's and Forever 21, for that matter, certain other ones. But recently, I, for the very first time, went to the Mall of America. And what I was just, and I don't even have little ones anymore, but I tell you what, when I stood at the Nickelodeon indoor amusement park, I stood there going, why don't we have this? And so I really have to tell you, back to experiences that everyone benefits from, I think something like that would be huge out here.
I'd go.
You'd go. Now, I mean, you're talking about the girl that grew up with Metro Center and the ice skating rink indoors, that then was a teenager at Paradise Valley Mall. And so, I know the Arizona Mall, and I know the shopping experience, and I can tell you it is about experience. And that is something that I know you guys understand, but I certainly hope that there's some of that outdoors, indoors type of effect. That's just my feeling. Thank you. And by the way, I'm sorry, I do know that in 3 to 4 years, you will be the new smiling, happy face of shopping experiences, and so that will be a plus. Thanks.
Thanks, Mayor, Vice Mayor.
We still have one more here. Do you have a comment before? Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
And thank you so much for coming out tonight. And I think you should know that you are very, very wanted in this community. When my family moved here in 2005, we were sold that there was a mall coming, that this would be the new Scottsdale. I mean, there were all these big buzzwords. And years have gone by, and we really want you here. I live in Estrella, and it takes me a good 45 minutes to get to the closest mall, and I don't have that kind of time. But I do spend a lot of time around the Pebble Creek, McDowell area, which would be easy for me to get to your mall. So I just want you to know that you are very wanted in this community. And I have a question for you. So I know that my friends will say, oh, the mall, the mall. If I had to give them 2 sentences, what would be the 2 sentences? If I were to, what do I go home with? What do I say to my friends?
Mayor, Councilmember, as far as 2 sentences about the mall, about the
mall, are you coming? What is the plan? If I had to give my girlfriend
She
2
wants some
sentences.
buzzwords. She can take
She
back
wants some
our
buzzwords.
neighborhood.
Well, I can't give you an opening date, but I can let you know that we intend to deliver it in the next 3 to 4 years. And with a 2-year construction schedule, that means we've got to get started pretty soon to make that 3 to 4 year timeline. Significantly invested, committed to the community, and shop the market at Estrella Falls, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Garrett, kind of on a more of an observation piece, I'm going to give you my 2 cents. Indoors better, but I do like the concept of maybe an in and out, where part of it's in and part of it's out. I think that's very unique, which kind of describes our community. Okay, that's my 2 cents. The other side of it is, I know several people who have retail shops in your power center who are constantly telling me what a great landlord matrix, I can't even say it, is.
It's hard to say.
how the company is working with occupants who have businesses to make sure that they keep their doors open, to do everything that they can. And I think that speaks highly of your commitment to our community. And, you know, on their behalf, I know they appreciate it. As a person who shops there, I appreciate it, but also as a council person. Empty stores are not only not attractive, but they serve us no purpose. So I appreciate hearing the plan with some greater level of specificity than we heard the last time you were here, and I look forward to hearing about what's coming up.
Great. Thanks, Mayor, Councilmember, and just a quick comment on that. I'll pass that on to our leasing people and the people that run the center, and actually Rob is still very involved with all the tenants there. We've had to make some tough decisions to do what you said, to keep them in there, and it was the right thing to do. And you know, those tenants are doing well now, so definitely the right thing to do. And we're looking for, you know, more exciting things coming on the market. So thanks for that.
Just to add on to that, I don't think people realize that the struggle that it's been to keep them in there. Some didn't make it, but for the most part, most of them have. Right. And we do see shopping bags filled when we walk through that area. So, Sherry?
I just wanted to piggyback on, you know, I appreciate the fact that you're taking your time. I know we're all very anxious. You can tell we're just like, we would like you to start turning dirt tomorrow. But I appreciate that you're taking the time. And for those of us that have lived out here our whole lives, for building us a Scottsdale Fashion Center and not a Galleria that will be empty, because none of us want an empty store. I mean, that does nothing. And I do want to let people know, the community, that you are great partners, that a lot of your malls host events for families. I know that Biltmore does movies in the summertime. So I just want to let the community know and the public know that you guys are great partners and you are worth the wait, and we do appreciate you here, and I'm just very excited.
Thank you.
Joe?
Just to echo Councilmember Barber, I'm asked time and time again, and I can't tell you how many times I'm asked by not just direct relatives, but others out there, is when are we going to get shopping in Goodyear? Mm-hmm. And it seems to be a #1 priority among a lot of people I run across. So I can tell you, there is demand out there, and there are people that want the shopping. Now, again, I don't have the stats that I'm sure your marketing people are putting together, but I hear it, again, just kind of reiterating what Councilmember Barber says over and over again. They want it. They want to have that experience here, because in today's, you know, economy and times where time is very important, you know, to drive many distances to get the shopping experience. And again, I agree with you that, you know, there are a lot of people that go for the experience, shopping itself. They always have internet, but it's not the same as going to shopping, grabbing a bite with friends, meeting somewhere at a mall, you know, experience the shopping. So again, I just tell you, I'm hearing it. So I know the public is just waiting for that experience to happen here in Goodyear.
I know one you
Joanne?
could really go after. I'm sure every one of us here has heard time and time again, will you please get a Trader Joe's so I can tell them that you have no idea. And I've been here since '96, so I've been hearing for the last 15 years about you guys coming here, and all I've heard is, when is the Trader Joe's? When's the Trader Joe's? Go, please. Trader Joe's.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, yeah, Trader Joe's is definitely one of the target.
If we haven't done our job
that
and brought Trader Joe's here.
Yeah, we've met with them a few times, as a matter of fact,
Thank
about
you.
Goodyear. So continue to work on that.
Anyone else have a question here? Garrett, I just want to thank you. I know this was a tough one to come back again.
No problem. Willing to come back anytime.
Previous times we've kind of given you a hard time, but I have to thank my council. They were on best behavior, asked great questions, and I think your briefing was very clear. And I just can't imagine that the public's not going to walk away this time knowing that the commitment is there. The shopping center is going to be built, and we look forward to the first shovel.
Yeah, same here. Look forward to that groundbreaking ceremony.
All right,
Absolutely.
great. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, City Manager, do you have anything, or Council, do you have anything for the City Manager before we? All right. Anything from Brian, anything you have?
Mayor and council had a couple of follow-up items left over from the previous item in the work session, and that includes sales tax on non-construction prior to the half-cent increase, what that is. And also, as part of our revenue forecast that we bring back to you in April, it will include a deeper look at all the revenues, including property tax and some of the other things that came up. So tonight was just kind of a primer for that, if you will, and a lot more detail will be forthcoming. But other than that, I have nothing else tonight.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes, Bill?
Brian, just to clarify, what I was looking for is the non-construction sales tax figures from before, the last year before we added the half a cent.
Before.
Not a comparison, just what it was before.
Got it.
It's like in '06 or something.
You're talking back
Yeah, it was
to
actually in
2005, it was
2009.
2006, is that what you?
Well, wait a minute.
The,
No.
the half cent was added in '09.
Oh,
September
09.
So-
09.
I was going
So give me the '08,
Got it.
the FY '08
I thought he said construction.
non-construction
Before.
before the half cent was
Okay.
added. I'm just curious what that.
Oh, that's what I thought, okay.
Oh, thank you. There was one other thing, Mayor, that appreciate that I had intended to introduce our newest deputy city manager who's sitting in the audience. We'll ask him to say a couple of words, and that is Bob Beckley, who has joined us starting today. And Bob, there's a microphone in front of you, but if I've asked him to say a couple of words on his behalf.
Thank you, Brian. I just want to say I'm really excited to be here. The meeting that you had tonight to hear, the good news, both on a financial perspective and also future growth here, is just, it's a great day to start in a good year today.
Good.
So I want to thank Brian for all of his support and look forward to working with all of you in the upcoming months.
Great, well, welcome aboard.
Yes, welcome.
Yep.
Yes. Appreciate that. Bob is a professional engineer, and his background really is going to serve us well in public works areas, also in the engineering and the technical side of the house. So brings a lot of talent and knowledge with him that will help us in some of those technical areas. So look forward to it. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, then I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and I don't have when the next meeting is on here, so. The 11th?